Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel Solace Stories. I gave my daughter $200,000 from my savings to buy a house in her name. After accidentally overhearing a phone call from my son-in-law, I stayed up all night to change my will. It's true what they say about the world: you can know a person's face, but you can never know their heart. My name is Susan Miller, and I'm just a regular retired woman. I was widowed early in life, and I raised my daughter, Emily, all by myself. I alone know how much hardship I endured, how much exhaustion I bore. I thought that once my daughter was married, I, as her mother, could finally get some rest. Who would have thought that after pouring my heart, soul, and $200,000 into buying a marital home for my daughter and son-in-law with the deed solely in my daughter's name, which I believed was the greatest protection I could offer her, that my world would be turned upside down? I thought my precious daughter had found a good man, that my later years would be secure. I never, ever expected what was to come. By chance, in that bright and clean new house, I personally heard the man I had always treated like my own son, my son-in-law Kevin, talking to one of his buddies on the phone. Those few sentences were like daggers of ice dipped in poison, stabbing viciously into my heart. The pain was sharp, excruciating, but it was overshadowed by a chill that seeped deep into my bones. In that moment, the blood in my veins turned to ice. I told myself, "Susan, you cannot fall apart. You have to hold on, for yourself and for your naive daughter." I would not forget this betrayal. This was a slight I had to correct myself. That very evening, I went to my lawyer's office and, working late into the night, I changed my will. Oh, the game had only just begun. My name is Susan Miller, and I am 58 years old. My husband passed away a long time ago, and I went through incredible hardship to raise our daughter, Emily, on my own. People say a daughter is a mother's comfort, and that's absolutely true. Emily was always considerate growing up, a good student who never caused me much worry. After graduating from a big state university in the Midwest, she found a decent job and started dating a young man, Kevin. The first time Kevin came to our home, he was as sweet as could be. It was always Mrs. Miller this and Mrs. Miller that, charming me completely. He was a tall kid, about 6 feet, handsome and energetic. He was so attentive to Emily, always asking if she was warm or had eaten, incredibly thoughtful. At the time, I thought to myself that this was a good young man. His family background was a bit modest, but he seemed honest and ambitious, and he genuinely cared for Emily. That was enough. I had suffered enough in my life. All I wanted was for my daughter to find a good partner and live a happy, peaceful life. They dated for 2 years and reached the age where they started talking about marriage. I knew Kevin's family's financial situation wasn't great. His parents were blue-collar workers who hadn't managed to save much after putting him through college. Buying a house for the wedding was certainly a challenge for them. His mother had spoken to me a few times, her words filled with difficulty. "Susan," she'd said, "it's not that we aren't trying, it's just, well, we feel like we're letting Emily down." Seeing her worried face and the hopeful look in my own daughter's eyes, my heart softened. I haven't achieved much in my life, but through careful saving and frugal living, I managed to put away a little nest egg for my retirement. When my husband passed, he left a life insurance policy, and combined with my savings over the years, I had a little over $200,000. I had originally intended for that money to see me through my old age, but looking at my daughter, well, a mother's heart always plans for her children. I gritted my teeth and told my daughter, "Emily, honey, Mom has some money. Let's use it to buy you a house." Then I added, "But I have one condition. The deed must be in your name, and your name only." My daughter started to cry right then, hugging me and saying, "Mom, how can I? That's your retirement money." I patted her on the back. "Silly girl, seeing you happy is better than anything else. The money is just sitting in my account. Buying you a house with it gives me peace of mind. As for the name, you listen to me. This is my gift to you, your foundation. It has nothing to do with who you marry. It's a treasure I want to give you." When Kevin found out, his performance was one of overwhelming gratitude. He held my hand, his eyes red. "Mrs. Miller, you're like a real mother to me. I swear, for the rest of my life, I will treat Emily well and respect you. Don't you worry, I 100% agree that the house should be in Emily's name. It's a mother's love for her daughter. It's how it should be. His sincerity at that moment completely fooled me. I was even feeling pleased with myself, thinking this son-in-law was truly understanding, unlike so many others who argue over whose name goes on the deed. Seeing his earnest promises, the last of my reservations vanished. All right then, for my daughter's happiness, I would spend the money. Looking for a house, choosing one, making the payment, and handling the paperwork all went smoothly. I made sure to have a lawyer friend I trusted, David, look over everything to ensure that the property deed clearly and solely listed my daughter, Emily Miller. The day we got the deed, my daughter hugged me, laughing and crying. Kevin was right there beside her, repeating his thanks and even bowing to me. Looking at the two of them, my heart was full of warmth. I felt that the $200,000 was money well spent. I also put my heart and soul into the new house's renovation. Running to Home Depot, keeping an eye on the contractors, it was a little tiring, but I had something to look forward to. The thought of my daughter and son-in-law soon moving into their spacious, bright new home made my fatigue feel insignificant. As the renovation was nearing its end, the house needed to air out from the new paint. That weekend, I bought some fruit and planned to go to the new house to take a look and help wipe down the windows. Kevin said he had a meeting with some friends that afternoon and would come later. My daughter had to work overtime unexpectedly and couldn't make it, so I went to the new house alone with my key. It was a nice 3-bedroom place, about 1,300 square feet, with windows facing north and south. Sunlight streamed in, making it feel wonderfully bright. I was feeling happy, thinking we had chosen a great house. As I walked toward the study near the back porch, I suddenly heard Kevin's voice inside, on the phone. I wondered for a moment, didn't he say he was coming later? I didn't think much of it, assuming his business had finished early. Just as I was about to go in and say hello, I heard Kevin lower his voice, his tone laced with a smugness and calculation I had never heard before. Hey, it's done. The old hag actually coughed up the money. My feet froze in place. The old hag? Was he talking about me? My heart sank, and a terrible premonition washed over me. I held my breath and leaned closer to the crack in the door, just in time to hear Kevin continue. $200,000, man. Paid in full. The deed is in that silly girl Emily's name, but what does that matter? Once we're married, it becomes marital property. She's all mine, so how is the house going to run away? I'll just find some excuse later to get her to add my name, or better yet, sweet-talk her into selling it to buy a bigger place with both our names. Then it's all legit. What? You mean her mom? He said after a pause. That old thing actually expects me to take care of her in her old age? In her dreams? Once I get the house, and the money is secured, if Emily behaves, I'll keep her around. If she doesn't, if she gets in my way. His voice dropped lower, but I heard him clearly. He said, then I'll just kick her to the curb. The house and money will be mine anyway. I can find someone younger and prettier. Better than being stuck with her, right? Don't worry, buddy. When have I ever messed things up? The old hag and Emily are both wrapped around my little finger. Now, all I have to do is sit back and enjoy the ride. Ha 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 ha. That laugh, so harsh and arrogant, was like a dull knife sawing back and forth across my heart. My hands and feet turned to ice, my entire body trembling not from anger, but from a bone-deep cold that spread from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. So, this was how it always was. The sweet words, the earnest promises, the tearful gratitude, it was all fake, all an act for my benefit. He wasn't after Emily at all. He was after my money, my house. He had even planned it all out. Once he got what he wanted, he would toss my daughter aside. That animal. I had poured my heart out, treated him like my own son, and all the while he was scheming against me, against my daughter. The room started to spin, and I nearly lost my footing. I leaned against the cold wall, gasping for air. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably, but I quickly wiped them away. Crying? What good would that do? It wasn't worth shedding tears for such a heartless beast. Susan, you can't fall apart. You can't let him see. Since he wants to act, then I'll play along with him. I quietly stepped back, my feet as silent as a cat's, moving away from the study door. I took a few deep breaths to calm myself, forcing a neutral expression onto my face. Then, as if nothing had happened, I walked into the living room and deliberately made some noise. "Kevin, you're here? I just came by to check on things." The study door opened and Kevin walked out, that same sunny, brilliant smile on his face. "Mrs. Miller, what are you doing here? I thought you weren't coming this afternoon." He walked over, eagerly taking the bag of fruit from my hands. "Oh, look at you. You shouldn't have brought anything." Seeing his phony smile made my stomach churn, but I held it in. I smiled back, trying to keep my voice as normal as possible. "I was just in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by, maybe help you clean the windows." "Oh no, you can't do that. You need to rest," Kevin insisted, guiding me toward the sofa. "That's a small job. When Emily gets here, we can do it ourselves. We can't let you lift a finger." The more attentive he was, the colder I felt inside. I sat on the sofa and watched him bustle around, pouring me a glass of water. Only one thought echoed in my mind. "Kevin, you just wait. You think you can outsmart Susan Miller? You think you can use my daughter as a stepping stone? It won't be that easy. In my life, what hardships haven't I faced? What kinds of people haven't I seen? You want to play dirty? Fine, we'll just see who gets the last laugh." I didn't stay long at the new house that day. I made an excuse and left quickly. The moment I stepped out of the complex, even the sunlight felt harsh. The hatred in my heart grew like a wild weed. I didn't go home. I hailed a cab and went directly to my lawyer friend, David Chen. David is an old classmate from my college days and the person I trust most. As soon as I walked in, before he could even speak, I told him the whole story. Of course, I left out the specific details of what I'd overheard Kevin say, telling him only that I had been thinking things over and felt uneasy. It was a large sum of money, and I wanted to have a safety net for myself. David listened, then fell silent for a moment. He looked at me with an understanding in his eyes. "Susan, did you find something out?" I shook my head, forcing myself to stay calm. "No, it's just that when you get older, you worry more. This is my entire life savings, after all." David sighed. "I understand your concern. To be honest, when you decided to put the deed only in Emily's name, I thought it was the best approach. But you can never truly know what's in a person's heart, and no one can predict the future. Wanting to amend your will now is a wise decision. What changes do you want to make?" My gaze hardened. "David, I want this will to be perfectly clear. All property under my name, including the equity corresponding to the $200,000 home purchase, for which I have proof of funds, as well as my other savings and any other property I may have upon my death, is to be inherited solely by my daughter, Emily Miller." I paused, then added with emphasis, "However, and I mean if it is proven, either during my lifetime or after my passing, that my son-in-law, Kevin, has committed any act of infidelity, abused my daughter, or attempted to illegally seize my or my daughter's assets, then he shall have no right to inherit any property my daughter obtains through my will. Furthermore, if he and my daughter divorce, the division of this house, purchased with my funds, must prioritize my daughter's interests, ensuring she receives full or the majority of the ownership." David nodded. "We can achieve that by setting up a conditional will. We'll need to clearly define the methods of proof, the standards, and the details of execution. I will draft the most rigorous will for you to maximize the protection of your and your daughter's interests. And one more thing," I said, looking at David and speaking each word carefully. "I want this will drawn up now, and I want it notarized. I need to ensure its legal power is unshakable by anyone." Seeing the resolve in my eyes, David nodded firmly. "All right, Susan, don't worry. Leave it to me." That evening, I stayed at David's law office for a long time. We meticulously went over every word of the will, making sure there were no loopholes. When I signed my name on that new notarized document, my hand was steady, my heart was cold, but my mind was clearer than ever. "Kevin, you think you've won? You think $200,000 and a house are yours for the taking?" I scoffed internally. The money I gave my daughter was for her happiness, not for a thankless wolf like you to squander and scheme with. "I'll play the game you've started. Now, it's my turn." Leaving the law firm, the night was deep. The city's neon lights flickered, but they couldn't penetrate the coldness in my heart. But I knew from that moment on, I was no longer just a mother who gave silently. I was going to fight a beautiful battle for my daughter and for myself. Just you wait, Kevin. The real show is about to begin. Life had to go on, and the act had to continue. Ever since that day I learned Kevin's true colors. It was as if I had put on a thick mask. In front of him and my daughter, I remained the loving, gracious mother-in-law, always concerned and caring. As for Kevin, he probably thought the big prize of the house was practically in his hands, so his attitude toward me became even more filial. He'd pop over to my place every few days, bringing fruit or snacks, or just to chat and keep me company. Anyone who didn't know better would have thought he was the model son-in-law. I would just laugh coldly to myself. Act. Keep acting. Let's see how long you can keep it up. The new house was renovated, and after airing out, the young couple started preparing to move in. Of course, I went on moving day. Seeing Kevin bustling about, directing the movers with the air of the man of the house, made my stomach churn. Every brick and tile in this house was bought with my blood, sweat, and tears. What right did you, Kevin, have to stand here and give orders? But on my face, I wore a smile. Kevin, you must be exhausted. Look at you, sweating so much. I handed him a towel. He took it, wiped his brow, and beamed. Not at all, Mrs. Miller. It's what I should be doing. This is going to be my and Emily's home. Of course I have to give it my all. He deliberately emphasized my and Emily's home, as if declaring his ownership. I snorted internally but nodded on the outside. Yes, your home. You two need to build a good life together. Emily was nearby, organizing boxes, her face glowing with happiness. Seeing her like that sent another pang of pain through my heart. Silly girl, you're being sold, and you're still counting the money for the person who sold you. I couldn't let Kevin's scheme succeed. After the move, Kevin suggested hosting a housewarming dinner for me at their new place that evening. I agreed. Kevin was the head chef. I had to admit, the kid had some skills. He made a 4-course meal that looked and smelled delicious. Throughout dinner, he kept putting food on my plate, showering me with compliments. Mrs. Miller, try this pot roast. I learned the recipe from Emily. She said it's your favorite, Mrs. Miller. From now on, you should come over all the time. Treat this place like your own home. Mrs. Miller, once we're settled, we'll have you move in with us. We'll take care of you in your old age. Listening to these disingenuous words, I almost threw up the food I had just eaten. Take care of me? You probably want to send me off early so you can get your hands on all my assets. But I forced down my disgust and played along with a smile. Yes, I know you two are good kids. After dinner, my daughter went to do the dishes, leaving just Kevin and me in the living room. He made me a cup of tea and sat across from me, starting a seemingly casual conversation. Mrs. Miller, what do you think of the house? The renovation turned out okay, right? It's very nice, very spacious. It is. It's just that the property taxes, the utility bills, it all adds up to quite a bit each month. His tone shifted as he began to plead poverty. Emily and I just started our careers a few years ago. We don't have much in savings, so the pressure is pretty high. Here it comes, I thought. The fox is about to show its tail. I laughed coldly to myself but put on a concerned expression. Yes, it's not easy for young people these days. Exactly. So, Mrs. Miller. He rubbed his hands together, a slightly embarrassed look on his face. I was thinking, I've recently partnered with a friend on a project that looks really profitable. The only thing is, we're a little short on the initial investment. He paused, carefully watching my expression. I was wondering if it would be convenient for you to lend me a little to get started. Not much, just $10,000. As soon as the project makes money, I'll pay you back immediately, with interest. 10,000? His appetite wasn't small. He saw me pull out 200,000 for the house and figured I had more to spare. In his dreams. I had already made up my mind. He wouldn't get another cent from me. But I couldn't refuse him directly. That would spook him. I sighed, my face showing a look of difficulty. Oh, Kevin, it's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that I'm really not in a position to. I started playing the victim. You know, to buy you this house, I used up all of my retirement savings. All I have left is a little bit of cash for emergencies. In case my health, I deliberately coughed a couple of times. The smile on Kevin's face froze for a second but quickly returned. Oh, Mrs. Miller, what was I thinking? I was so focused on myself, I forgot about your situation. It's fine. It's fine. I'll figure something else out for the money. Please don't worry about it. Your health is the most important thing. He sounded nice, but I clearly saw a flicker of annoyance and calculation in his eyes. I knew he hadn't given up. He'd hit a wall this time, but he would find another way. Sure enough, a few days later, he came back. This time, he didn't ask to borrow money. He tried a different tactic. Mrs. Miller, you know, even though the deed is in Emily's name, this is our family's home now. I was thinking, maybe we should add my name to it. That way, if we ever need to do something, like apply for a loan, it would be more convenient. What do you think? He made it sound so reasonable, as if he were thinking solely for the family's benefit. If I were still the naive Susan from before, I might have been swayed by his words. But now, my mind was as clear as a mirror. Add your name? For convenience? You mean convenient for you to divide the assets when you divorce her, right? I smiled, my tone gentle but firm. Kevin, we agreed on this when we bought the house. Putting Emily's name on the deed was my way of giving her security. And it was also a sign of my trust in you, my belief that you would treat her well. As for the convenience you mentioned, we don't need a loan for anything right now, do we? If we ever do, Emily can handle it just the same. Besides, adding a name to a deed is a complicated process and involves a lot of taxes. It's not worth it. I blocked every path, leaving him with no room to argue. Kevin's face visibly darkened. He forced a smile. You're right, Mrs. Miller. I didn't think it through. But I could clearly see the unwillingness and resentment in his eyes. I knew my refusal had made him unhappy with me. But that was exactly what I wanted. I wanted him to know that Susan Miller was not so easily fooled. You want to benefit from me? Not a chance. In the period that followed, although Kevin remained polite to me on the surface, I could feel that he was not as attentive as before. Sometimes, when I went over to the new house, he would even find an excuse to leave. He still put on an act in front of my daughter. But his attitude toward me in private had subtly changed. For example, he used to always smile and agree with whatever I said. Now, he would occasionally interrupt me impatiently or give me a look that said, "What do you know?" One time, I saw a pile of his dirty clothes on the new sofa and casually said, "Kevin, those clothes need to be washed. Don't leave them piled on the sofa." He was playing a game on his phone at the time and didn't even look up, replying impatiently, I know. Stop nagging." That tone was a world away from the humble, polite Kevin I had first met. My daughter was there and was taken aback for a moment, trying to smooth things over. "Mom, he's just focused on his game. Don't mind him." I didn't say anything, just gave Kevin a long, deep look. He seemed to realize his mistake and quickly put down his phone, smiling sheepishly. "Mrs. Miller, I didn't mean it like that. The game was at a critical point, and I got a little worked up." I said coolly, "It's fine. Young people have their own habits. It was just a casual comment." But I knew in my heart that his true colors were slowly being revealed. His respect for me was built on the foundation of potential gain. Once he realized he couldn't get anything from me, and that I was even becoming an obstacle to his goals, his patience and his disguise would crumble, and my daughter, Emily, that silly girl, seemed to still be lost in a happy illusion. In front of her, Kevin was still the gentle, considerate husband. She might have noticed the subtle changes, but they were likely explained away by Kevin's glib excuses. Or perhaps she was unwilling to believe that the person she loved so deeply could have such an ugly side. Looking at my daughter, my heart ached with both pain and anxiety. I couldn't just tell her the truth. Given her current level of trust in Kevin, she probably wouldn't believe me. She might even think I was just a meddling mother trying to stir up trouble, which would only push her closer to him. I had to find irrefutable proof, a piece of evidence so damning that Emily could no longer deceive herself. I started paying even closer attention to Kevin's every move. I knew that a man as calculating as him wouldn't be satisfied with just one house. He must have other schemes in the works. I needed patience. I needed to wait for the right moment. At the same time, I was making preparations in secret. I asked my lawyer, David, to help me look into information on transferring assets during a marriage and how to collect legally admissible evidence of a spouse's misconduct. I knew this was going to be a tough fight, but I had plenty of patience and resolve to protect my daughter, to defend my home, and to get justice for myself. Kevin, you just wait. I will make you repay what you owe me, and what you owe my daughter. Double. Late at night, I would often sit alone by the window, looking at the city lights, my heart a block of ice. I would replay Kevin's words over and over in my head, reminding myself not to soften, not to waver. The thought of revenge was like a poisonous thorn lodged in my heart, causing a dull ache. But I knew I had no other choice. This wasn't simple revenge. It was self-preservation. It was protecting the person I loved most. I, Susan Miller, an ordinary mother, was going to defend my dignity and my principles in my own way. Day by day, Kevin and I maintained a delicate balance, peaceful on the surface, but with a turbulent undercurrent. He seemed to have temporarily given up on getting money directly from me or adding his name to the deed and had started working on my daughter, Emily. I knew this was his real point of entry. After all, Emily was the legal owner of the house, and she trusted Kevin completely. I began to consciously increase my visits to the new house, finding all sorts of reasons to be there. Sometimes it was to help them clean, other times to bring them some home-cooked food. On the surface, I was a caring mother, but in reality, I wanted to observe more, to see what tricks Kevin was up to. Sure enough, it didn't take long for me to notice something. Kevin started frequently painting a grand picture for Emily. "Honey, look, this house we're in now is nice, but the location is a bit out of the way, and it's far from your office. I've recently seen a new development downtown. Great location, all the amenities, and it's bound to appreciate in value. What if we sell our current house? I'll find a way to chip in a little more, and we buy that new place. Get it right in one go. What do you think?" Whenever he said these things, he deliberately avoided me. But I had my own spy. I had placed a small voice recorder in an inconspicuous corner of the new living room beforehand. It was my lawyer David's suggestion. He said that, if necessary, these recordings could become evidence. I heard the conversations between Kevin and Emily crystal clear. Emily was hesitant at first. But this house was a gift from Mom. It doesn't feel right to sell it right after moving in. Wouldn't Mom be upset? Kevin immediately began his brainwashing. "Silly girl, don't you think Mom wants what's best for us? If we move to a better house and improve our quality of life, she'll only be happy when she finds out. Besides, the house is in your name. You have the right to sell it. I'll talk to your mom. I guarantee it won't be a problem. Just think how convenient it would be to live downtown. When we have kids, it'll be convenient for their schooling too. This is all for our little family, for our future." He made everything sound so wonderful, so logical, that Emily's resolve began to waver. "Well, maybe we should ask Mom's opinion first. What's there to ask?" Kevin's tone became a little impatient. "This is our business. You're always saying, 'Mom said this, Mom said that.' When are we going to make our own decisions? What if she disagrees? Are we just not going to move then? Emily, you need to have your own mind." Hearing this, a fire ignited within me. That bastard wasn't just scheming for my money. He was trying to drive a wedge between me and my daughter. He wanted Emily to stop listening to me, to plot against her own mother with him. I suppressed my anger and kept listening. Emily, hurt by his words, sounded defensive. "It's not that I don't have my own mind. I just think we should respect Mom." "Respect? Us getting a better house so she can enjoy it with us later, that's the greatest respect." Kevin's tone softened, becoming more earnest. "Emily, I know you're a good daughter, but sometimes older people's ideas are more conservative. They can't keep up with the times. We're planning for the long term. Trust me, I'm right. Let's just list the house and test the market, see what it's going for. Once we find a suitable buyer, I'll go talk to Mom. By then, it will be a done deal." "What can she say?" I clutched the recorder tightly in my hand, my nails digging into my palm. A done deal. Kevin, you've really got it all figured out. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. If I let him completely brainwash Emily and they really sold the house, it would be too late. I had to find a way to stop them. But how? A direct confrontation? No. Without absolute certainty and solid evidence, it would only make Emily think I was being unreasonable and might even push her completely over to Kevin's side. I needed a catalyst, an opportunity for Emily to see and hear Kevin's true colors for herself. I thought of my lawyer, David. Maybe he could give me some advice. I went to see David again and told him about the latest developments, including the recordings. After listening, David's brow furrowed. Susan, this Kevin is very calculating. He knows how to exploit Emily's love and trust for him. The situation is indeed tricky. Direct intervention might backfire. We need to find a way for him to expose himself, and in front of Emily. We discussed it in his office for a long time before David proposed a plan. Susan, since Kevin wants to sell the house, let's help him. Help him? I was confused. Yes, David said with a meaningful smile. We can arrange for a buyer, someone who seems very sincere and makes a reasonable offer, to contact them. And then, during the negotiation process, we set some traps. For example, we can have the buyer ask for documents that Kevin might not be able to produce, or create obstacles in the payment method, and observe his reaction. More importantly, we can use this buyer to create situations that will make Emily suspicious of Kevin. For example, I pressed. For example, we have the buyer meet with Kevin privately and make some special requests or leak some information to see if Kevin will do something out of line or say something he shouldn't in order to close the deal. If Emily could accidentally overhear or see this, it would be more effective than anything we could say. I understood what David was getting at. We were going to lure the snake out of its hole. This buyer needs to be absolutely reliable and a good actor, I said. David smiled. Don't worry. I have a friend who used to be a corporate investigator and now runs his own consulting firm. Role-playing is his specialty, and he's completely discreet. He won't leak a thing. Good, I decided on the spot. Let's do it. The plan was quietly set in motion. David contacted his friend, a sharp, capable-looking middle-aged man named Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson soon contacted Kevin through a realtor, posing as a sincere homebuyer. As expected, Kevin took the bait. The moment he heard someone was interested in the house and the offer wasn't low, he became incredibly enthusiastic. Soon, they scheduled the first viewing. I deliberately stayed away that day, but I made sure Emily went. I told her, Emily, someone wants to see the house. You should go with Kevin. After all, it's your house. You should be informed. I'm a bit tired these days, so I won't go. Emily agreed. I knew Kevin would have prepped her to cooperate with him, but I trusted Mr. Peterson to handle it. That evening, Emily came home. I casually asked her how the viewing went. She seemed a little down. Mom, that Mr. Peterson seems wealthy, and he was polite, but something about him felt a bit strange. Strange? How? My heart skipped a beat. He said he was very satisfied with the house and that the price was negotiable, but he seemed more interested in Kevin than the house, she explained. What do you mean? He talked to Kevin for a long time, asking him what he did for work, his income, who else was in his family, incredibly detailed questions. He also said something like, "A young man like you, able to live in such a nice house, that's impressive." His tone, it sounded a bit like. Emily frowned, trying to find the right words, like he was digging for something. I smiled to myself. Mr. Peterson was a pro. He was subtly putting pressure on Kevin while planting a seed of doubt in Emily's mind. Maybe that's just how business people are, I said, trying to sound reassuring. Don't overthink it. As long as he's satisfied with the house, that's what matters. Emily nodded, but her brow was still furrowed. I knew this was just the first step. The real show was about to begin. Mr. Peterson and Kevin met a few more times. Each time, he would casually drop bits of information or make requests that put Kevin in a difficult position. For example, He mentioned that he was buying the house as an investment and might need to take out a mortgage later, which would require the homeowner's cooperation in providing some extra documents. Kevin, of course, readily agreed, promising it would be no problem. But when it came to what documents were needed, Mr. Peterson was vague, keeping him on edge. Another time, Mr. Peterson would casually mention that he knew a senior executive at a certain bank who could help fast-track the loan, but it would require some greasing of the wheels, hinting that if the deal went through, perhaps Kevin could show his appreciation. A money-hungry person like Kevin would never pass up such an opportunity. He would surely try to meet Mr. Peterson's demands in private, possibly even resorting to improper means. And that was the leverage I needed. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Kevin started getting antsy. He began to subtly ask Emily for money. "Honey, about that Mr. Peterson, we might need to grease some palms." Emily was wary. "Grease what palms? Why do we need to do that to sell a house?" You don't understand," Kevin said impatiently. "It's just how business is done. It's an unspoken rule. Besides, Mr. Peterson is just trying to help us get the loan approved faster. But we're the ones selling the house. Why should we be the ones paying?" "Why are you so stubborn?" Kevin was getting agitated. "We'll just advance the money. Once the house is sold, we can deduct it from the sale price. We might even get a better price out of it." In his greed, he was starting to speak recklessly. These conversations were all clearly captured by the recorder hidden in the corner. I secretly backed up and saved all the recordings. I knew they would be the heavy artillery I would use against Kevin in the final showdown. Besides the recordings, I also had David do a quiet check on Kevin's financial situation. The results were shocking. It turned out Kevin was deep in debt. The business venture with a friend he had told me about was a complete fabrication. He had been gambling and had lost a significant amount of money. No wonder he was in such a hurry to liquidate the house. He needed the cash to cover his debts. That bastard. He not only lied to me and my daughter, but he had also racked up a huge debt. If he had really sold the house and gotten his hands on the money, how much would have been left? My daughter would have been stuck paying off his debts for the rest of her life. The thought sent a chill down my spine. Thank God I had discovered his true nature in time. Thank God I had a backup plan. Now, the evidence was piling up. Kevin's greed, selfishness, and lies were all being exposed, little by little, under my control. The day I would close the net was getting closer. I could almost picture Kevin's face panicked, ugly, and utterly exposed when the whole truth came out. Just you wait, Kevin. The beautiful dream you've so carefully woven is about to be torn to shreds by my own hands. With the crucial information that Kevin was in gambling debt, I felt even more confident. I knew that the mind of a gambler is often both greedy and anxious. His desperation to get the money from the house sale to fill that hole would make him more likely to slip up under Mr. Peterson's increasing pressure. Mr. Peterson, on his end, intensified his efforts. He started meeting with Kevin more frequently, sometimes at a coffee shop, sometimes over dinner. The stated purpose was always to deepen their understanding and discuss details, but in reality, it was a continuous process of probing and setting traps. And Mr. Peterson was clever. He made a point of inviting Emily along each time. His excuse was, since the property is in Miss Miller's name, many things require her personal confirmation. Although Kevin found it a bit troublesome, he was eager to close the deal and couldn't object, so he had to bring Emily with him. This created the perfect opportunity for me to stage an accident. One evening, Mr. Peterson invited them to dinner at an upscale restaurant. I found out about it in advance. I timed it perfectly and arranged to have a reunion dinner with a few old friends at the same restaurant. Of course, this was all part of my elaborate plan. I sat at a table not far from them, shielded by a partition, where I could clearly hear their conversation without being easily seen. During the meal, Mr. Peterson was charming and witty, frequently raising his glass. After a few drinks, Kevin loosened up and became more talkative, a bit full of himself. "Mr. Peterson asked casually, "Kevin, my friend, you're so young and talented, and your wife is so beautiful, a perfect match. But if you don't mind me asking, why was the house only put in your wife's name when you bought it?" It was a sensitive question. I saw Emily's expression become slightly unnatural. Kevin was also taken aback for a moment but quickly laughed it off. "Ah, we're all family. It doesn't matter whose name is on it. Besides, my mother-in-law dotes on her daughter and insisted on it, so I just went along with her. You know how older people can be. A bit traditional. Haha." His dismissive tone made it sound as if he was being so magnanimous and accommodating. Mr. Peterson smiled knowingly. "It's a good thing for a mother-in-law to dote on her daughter. But Kevin, my friend, in a marriage, it's important to have control of the finances. Otherwise, you always feel like you're on shaky ground, don't you think?" Those words struck a chord with Kevin. He immediately acted as if he had found a kindred spirit, nodding vigorously. "Mr. Peterson, you've hit the nail on the head. To be honest with you, He was about to say more when Emily kicked him under the table. Emily forced a smile and said to Mr. Peterson, "Mr. Peterson, my husband and I have a great relationship. It doesn't matter who manages the money." Interrupted, Kevin's face flashed with annoyance, but he couldn't show it in front of Mr. Peterson. He just chuckled awkwardly. Yes, Emily is right." Mr. Peterson looked from Kevin to Emily, a faint, unreadable smile playing on his lips, and didn't pursue the topic. But I knew that this exchange had planted another seed of doubt in Emily's mind. She couldn't have missed Kevin's inappropriate reaction and his agreement with Mr. Peterson's words. After the dinner, I didn't leave right away. I saw Kevin and Emily waiting for a car at the restaurant entrance. Kevin, still upset about being interrupted, had a sullen look on his face and wasn't speaking. Emily tried to talk to him, but he gave her the cold shoulder. After a moment, Kevin seemed to remember something and pulled Emily aside, whispering to her. They were too far for me to hear, but I saw Emily's face grow darker and darker. Finally, she yanked her hand away from his, hailed a cab, and left without looking back. Kevin stood there, his face livid, and seemed to shout a few curses in the direction of the departing taxi. I sneered to myself. A falling out among thieves. It seemed Kevin was trying to get Emily to do something she was unwilling to do, or was pressuring her for money again. The crack between them was widening, and it was all going according to my plan. The next day, I called Emily, feigning concern. "Emily, honey, how did dinner with Mr. Peterson go last night? Was everything okay?" There was a long silence on the other end before Emily mumbled, "Not really, Mom." "What's wrong? Did something happen?" I asked, pretending to be surprised. Emily hesitated, then told me what had happened. Kevin, he kept insisting that I go to Mr. Peterson and say that we could give him a kickback under the table if he increased the sale price a little. Then we could split the extra money and not tell you. "What?" I deliberately raised my voice, feigning shock and anger. "How could he do that? That's fraud. It's illegal. Emily, you must not agree to that." "I didn't." Emily's voice was choked with tears. "We had a fight over it. Mom, I feel like Kevin has changed. He wasn't like this before. This was my chance." I immediately followed her lead. "Emily, honey, it's not my place to say, but you are just too naive and trusting. I've told you before you can't judge a book by its cover. Just think about it. Why is he in such a rush to sell the house? And why is he trying to use such dishonest means to get more money? Do you think he's in some kind of trouble?" I said the word trouble with great significance. There was another long silence from Emily. Then, in a voice filled with uncertainty and a hint of fear, she asked, "Mom, do you know something?" I knew the time was right, but I couldn't reveal all my cards at once. I sighed heavily. "Emily, there are some things I didn't want to tell you because I was afraid of hurting you. But now, I don't think I can keep them from you any longer. Kevin, he might have some debts." "What? Debts? How much?" Emily's voice became sharp. "I'm not exactly sure how much, but it might be a large sum," I said vaguely, letting her imagination do the work. "Otherwise, why would he be so desperate to sell the house for cash?" "But how could he have debts?" "He told me." Emily's voice started to tremble. "What did he tell you? That he was partnering with a friend on a business venture?" I scoffed. "Emily, you are too easily fooled. He doesn't have any legitimate business. That money? He most likely lost it gambling." "Gambling?" Emily sounded as if she had been struck by lightning, crying out, "That's impossible. Kevin never gambles. Mom, are you sure you're not mistaken?" I wish I were mistaken. My voice was filled with pain. But all the signs point to it. Emily, think carefully. Hasn't he been coming home late and leaving early recently? Isn't he always saying he's busy with work or has to entertain clients? And does he ever let you touch his phone? The questions I posed were like little hammers, striking at Emily's heart. She began to remember, to think. She hadn't been oblivious to Kevin's recent odd behavior. She just hadn't wanted to believe the worst. Now that I had pointed it out, all the details she had ignored suddenly became clear. I could hear Emily's suppressed sobs over the phone. I knew her defenses were beginning to crumble. "Mom, what should I do? What should I do?" she cried helplessly. "Don't be afraid, Emily. Mom is here." I immediately comforted her. "The most important thing now is to find out the truth. We can't let him keep us in the dark anymore. For now, you need to stay calm and not let him see that anything is wrong. I'll find a way to help you investigate. But you also need to be careful and protect yourself, especially your money." I emphasized the word money. "The house is in your name. He can't sell it without your consent. The deed, your social security card, your bank cards, you must keep these important things safe. Don't let him get his hands on them." "Okay, I will, Mom," Emily sobbed in agreement. After hanging up, I let out a long breath. It hurt me deeply to see my daughter in so much pain. I felt it more than anyone, but it was better to face a short, sharp pain now than a long, drawn-out one. Only by seeing Kevin's true colors could she truly wake up and escape this disaster. Next, I needed to get more direct, undeniable evidence. Kevin's gambling debt was the perfect place to start. I contacted David. "David, I need your help. Find out exactly how much gambling debt Kevin has and who his creditors are. It would be best if you could get some concrete evidence, like IOUs or records of debt collectors." David understood my intentions. "Susan, this will be difficult and might require some unconventional methods, and there could be risks." "I'll take the risk." My voice was firm. "As long as I can get the evidence and make Emily see him for who he really is, any price is worth it." David was silent for a moment, then said, "All right, I'll do my best. But you need to be prepared. The truth might be even uglier than you imagine." "I'm ready," I said. After hanging up, my heart was firmer than ever. "Kevin, your judgment day is coming." For the next few days, Emily was very down. She started watching Kevin more closely, testing him. Kevin seemed to notice the change in her, and his attitude toward her fluctuated. Sometimes he would be overly affectionate, showering her with sweet words. Other times, when she asked about money, he would become extremely irritable, even losing his temper with her. Their arguments became more frequent. I knew this was the darkness before the dawn. Emily was going through a painful struggle, and all I could do was support her quietly while I hurried to prepare the final blow. News came from David quickly. Through his connections, he had confirmed Kevin's gambling debts. The amount was staggering, a full $50,000. And the creditors were already pressing him hard, threatening to take extreme measures if he didn't pay up soon. David had even managed to get a recording of a debt collector calling Kevin to demand payment. The tone was vicious and vulgar. "Susan, the evidence is solid," David said over the phone. "Kevin is like a cornered animal now. He will do whatever it takes to force Emily to sell the house. We need to act quickly, before he succeeds, and expose the truth." "I understand." My voice was unusually calm. "David, thank you. What do you plan to do next?" "Next?" I could almost hear the cold smile in my own voice. "Next, of course, we set the trap. I'm going to host a dinner party, a final showdown, and let everyone see exactly what kind of person Kevin really is." The core of the plan was a meticulously orchestrated family confrontation. The location, the new house I had bought for them. It was the stage where Kevin's deceitful performance began, and it had to be the place where his schemes would end. For the timing, I chose the day Kevin and Mr. Peterson were scheduled to sign a preliminary contract. I knew Kevin would be at his most triumphant and least guarded, believing he was on the verge of success. That same day would surely be when his creditors were pressuring him the most, making him stressed, unstable, and more prone to losing control. I gave Emily a heads up. Emily, aren't Kevin and that Mr. Peterson supposed to sign the contract on Saturday? Yes, I think so. Emily's voice was still hesitant and distant. She had been under immense psychological pressure. That day, I want to invite Mr. Peterson and your in-laws over to the new house for dinner, I said, my tone as natural as possible. After all, he's buying our house. It feels like we're connected by fate. And your in-laws have worried so much about your marriage. It's a good opportunity for everyone to get together and have a lively meal. Emily was surprised. Mom, you've really agreed to sell the house? Silly girl, I sighed, my voice tinged with a hint of resignation. How could I really stop you? If you two think it's for the best, then go ahead and change houses. I'm just a little sad to see it go. But as long as you two are happy, that's all that matters. My reasonable words seemed to lower Emily's guard and even made her feel a little guilty. Mom, it's settled. Don't overthink it, I interrupted. You tell Kevin and let your in-laws know. I'll take care of the food. Emily agreed. I knew that when Kevin heard the news, he would be ecstatic. He would think this stubborn old woman had finally been persuaded, clearing his final obstacle. As for inviting his parents, he probably wouldn't object. He might even see it as a chance to show off his happy family in front of me. Everything was going according to my plan. Next was setting the stage. I contacted David and asked him to be available on Saturday to attend as a witness. I also invited a few old neighbors and colleagues who were close to me and had watched Emily grow up, asking them to come and join the celebration. The more people, the livelier. The more people, the more devastating the impact. I wanted Kevin to be utterly disgraced in front of everyone he had ever wanted to impress or exploit. I also prepared a special gift, courtesy of David, a copy of Kevin's IOU from the illegal gambling den and a CD with the debt collector's recording. Of course, I also had the recordings of Kevin and Emily's conversations about how to bribe Mr. Peterson and split the proceeds from the house sale. I organized all the evidence in a plain folder. Everything was ready. All I needed was for the players to arrive. Saturday finally came. I was busy from early in the morning, buying groceries and preparing the ingredients. I even went to the salon for a simple hairstyle and changed into a nice outfit. I had to be at my best for this battle. In the afternoon, Emily and Kevin arrived first. Kevin was indeed glowing with success, his face beaming, and he was exceptionally attentive to me. Mrs. Miller, you've worked so hard. What delicious food are you making? Let me help. No, you two just sit and wait, I said with a smile, guiding him to the sofa. You're the man of the hour today. Just entertain our guests. Emily still seemed troubled but tried to play along. Soon after, Kevin's parents arrived. The elderly couple were clearly swept up in the beautiful future their son had painted for them. The moment they entered, they grabbed my hand, saying, "Susan, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, our Kevin wouldn't be able to live in such a wonderful house. From now on, we're counting on the two of them to live a good life and make us proud." Listening to their words, I felt a mix of emotions. Poor souls, they probably had no idea what their pride and joy son had been up to. A little while later, Mr. Peterson arrived. He still had the air of a successful businessman, carrying a high-end gift. Mrs. Miller, sorry for the intrusion. Not at all, Mr. Peterson. Please, come in. I welcomed him warmly. Kevin immediately went up to greet him, chatting as if they were old friends. Finally, David and my other guests arrived. The living room was suddenly bustling with people. Seeing so many people, especially David, a flicker of surprise crossed Kevin's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by joy. He probably thought I had invited all these people to witness his impending success. How naive. Once everyone was there, I invited them to take their seats. The table was laden with a sumptuous feast. The atmosphere gradually warmed up with toasts and conversation. Kevin was undoubtedly the center of attention. He was in high spirits, frequently raising his glass and making speeches. Thank you to all the aunts, uncles, and elders for coming to our little family dinner today. I especially want to thank my mother-in-law. If it weren't for her incredible support, Emily and I wouldn't be here today. And thank you to Mr. Peterson for his discerning eye in choosing our house. From now on, we are all friends. He spoke with great passion, as if he were some great figure. Kevin's parents beamed with pride. Emily kept her head down, eating silently, barely speaking. I watched it all, sneering inwardly. The time was right. I put down my chopsticks and cleared my throat. All eyes turned to me. I smiled, raised my glass, and said, I've invited everyone here today, first, for a happy get-together, and second, to take this opportunity to announce something. Kevin immediately chimed in. Yes, Mrs. Miller is about to announce some good news. Emily and I are planning to move to a bigger house, and this one will be transferred to Mr. Peterson. It's perfect that Mr. Chen is here today to witness it. We'll sign the intention to sell contract this afternoon. He eagerly blurted it out, as if afraid I would change my mind. Mr. Peterson also smiled and added, Yes, Kevin and I hit it off right away. I am very satisfied with this house, and we've already agreed on the price. I looked at Kevin's smug face, and the smile on my own lips slowly turned cold. Is that so? Kevin, have you really settled everything? My voice was not loud, but it carried a piercing quality. The smile on Kevin's face froze. Mrs. Miller, what do you mean by that? Everyone sensed the shift in the atmosphere, and the living room fell silent. I slowly stood up, my sharp gaze sweeping over everyone present before finally landing on Kevin's increasingly flustered face. My meaning is, this house, I'm afraid, cannot be sold. Kevin shot up from his seat, his face instantly turning deathly pale, his voice trembling. Mrs. Miller, you promised. How can you go back on your word? His parents also became anxious. Susan, what's going on? Didn't we all agree? Mr. Peterson frowned, looking at me as if waiting for an explanation. Emily looked up, her eyes filled with shock and confusion, but also a faint hint of relief. Only David remained calm, as if he had anticipated this all along. I looked at Kevin coldly, enunciating each word. When did I ever promise you? I only said I was inviting everyone for a nice meal. As for selling the house, I paused, a mocking smile on my lips. Kevin, don't you think you should first explain to everyone why you are in such a hurry to sell this house that I paid for in full for my daughter? Shouldn't you explain what that so-called business venture with your friend really is? Or perhaps you should explain, my gaze turned even colder, how you plan to repay the more than $50,000 in gambling debts you've racked up? That last sentence was like a bolt of lightning striking the room. Kevin was stunned, his face ashen, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. His parents were aghast, their faces etched with disbelief. Gambling debts? $50,000? Kevin? Is this true? His mother shrieked, her voice shaking. Emily also stared at Kevin, her eyes filled with despair and pain. The other guests looked on with shock and contempt. The room was dead silent, save for Kevin's heavy breathing. I watched him coldly, feeling no pity. Kevin, is your act over? Because now, it's my turn. No, that's not it. Don't listen to her. She's trying to frame me. Kevin finally snapped out of it, screaming his denial, but his panicked eyes and pale face had already betrayed him. He pointed a trembling finger at me. You old witch. You just can't stand to see us happy. You don't want me and Emily to have a good life. Slap. A crisp sound echoed through the room. The one who hit him wasn't me. It was Emily. She was trembling all over, tears streaming down her face, her eyes filled with disappointment and fury as she looked at Kevin. Kevin, are you still lying, even now? Still trying to slander my mom? I'm not, Kevin stammered, covering his face, his eyes darting away. You're not? I sneered, stepping forward and slamming the folder I had been keeping by my side onto the table with a loud thud. Kevin, do you dare to look at what's inside? The folder opened, its contents spilling out. A few crumpled copies of IOUs, clearly showing Kevin's signature and the glaring number, $50,000, and a single CD. What is this? Kevin's father picked up one of the copies with a trembling hand. When he saw what was written, his vision went black, and he nearly fainted. "Dad," Kevin cried, rushing to support him. You worthless son. You really went gambling? And you lost this much money?" His father raged, shaking so hard he could barely point at Kevin's nose. Kevin's mother collapsed into her chair, wailing, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? How did our family produce such a disgrace?" "A disgrace?" I interjected coldly. "He's more than a disgrace. He's a thorough liar. A thankless wolf." I picked up the CD and looked at David. "Mr. Chen, would you mind playing this for everyone?" David nodded, took out a portable player he had brought, and put the disc in. Soon a vulgar and threatening conversation filled the living room. "Kevin, are you going to pay up or not? I'm giving you 3 more days. If you can't come up with the 50 grand, I'm going to break one of your legs." A man's vicious voice roared, Boss, please, just a few more days." I'm about to get the money. I'm selling a house. I'll have the cash very, very soon." Kevin's terrified and fawning voice replied, "Selling a house? Where the hell did you get a house?" My mother-in-law bought one for my wife. It's in her name, but it's okay. She listens to me. It'll be sold soon, and I'll bring the money straight to you." You better not try any funny business. Remember, 3 days." The recording ended. The room was deathly silent. All eyes were on Kevin like daggers. His parents looked ashen-faced. The old neighbors and colleagues wore expressions of disgust and anger. Mr. Peterson just shook his head with a look of dawning realization, stood up, and said, "Mrs. Miller, it seems I won't be buying this house after all. I'll see myself out." With that, he left without a backward glance. Kevin completely fell apart, slumping to the floor like a pile of rags, his face devoid of color. He knew it was over. His lies, his schemes, his facade, all of it had been shattered by the irrefutable evidence. Emily stood there, tears streaming down her face, looking at the man on the floor. There was no love left in her eyes, only endless disappointment and hatred. "Kevin, how could you do this to me? How could you do this to my mom?" she choked out, barely able to form a complete sentence. I walked over to my daughter and gently put my arm around her shoulders. "Emily, do you see him clearly now?" Emily collapsed into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Her cries were filled with hurt, pain, and regret. I knew that in that moment she had finally, completely woken up. Kevin's parents finally reacted. His mother scrambled to her feet, rushed over to Kevin, and started hitting and screaming at him. "You animal, why don't you just die? How did our family raise a monster like you? We're so ashamed." His father, trembling, pointed at him. I have no son." Watching the drama unfold, I felt no sense of pleasure, only a cold calm. Kevin had brought all of this upon himself. I turned to the remaining guests and bowed deeply. "Everyone, I'm so sorry you had to witness this. This dinner was not a pleasant one. I will treat you all properly another day." "Susan, don't say that. We all understand," one of the old neighbors said angrily. "That Kevin, he's really a piece of work. To think we used to believe he was an honest kid." "Yes, you can never know a person's heart. Poor Emily, she really suffered. It's a good thing you found out in time, otherwise the consequences." Everyone chimed in, comforting me and condemning Kevin. David came over and patted my shoulder. "Susan, what are you going to do now?" I looked at Kevin, still crumpled on the floor, my eyes as cold as ice. "What am I going to do? Of course, I'm going to make him pay the price." I walked over to Kevin and looked down at him. "Kevin, you schemed, you deceived my daughter, you plotted to take my property, and you even planned to kick her to the curb once you got what you wanted. Now, do you have anything to say for yourself?" Kevin looked up, his eyes filled with fear and pleading. "Mrs. Miller, Mom, I was wrong. I was so wrong. I was confused for a moment. I beg you, please, give me one more chance, for Emily's sake." "Shut up," I snapped, cutting him off. "You have the nerve to mention Emily? After you've hurt her like this, you still have the nerve to beg for mercy? As for a chance," I sneered, "do you really think you deserve one?" I turned to David. "Mr. Chen, regarding Kevin's suspected fraud, his attempts to transfer marital assets, and his gambling debts. Please handle the next steps as you see fit. David nodded. Rest assured, I will handle it according to the law. His actions go far beyond a moral issue. Hearing the words according to the law, Kevin completely panicked. He scrambled to his feet, fell to his knees before me, and clung to my leg, crying and begging. Mom, no. Don't call the police. I beg you. I don't want to go to jail. I really know I was wrong. I'll never do it again. I'll kowtow to you, I'll kowtow. He started banging his head on the floor. The sight of him, so pathetic and wretched, was a stark, ironic contrast to his earlier swagger. Kevin's parents also rushed over and knelt, crying and pleading with me. Susan, please, we're begging you. Spare him this one time. He's still young. He can't go to jail. We'll kowtow to you too. The elderly couple's tears flowed freely. It was a scene that might have moved some people, but I knew I could not be soft. Mercy for a person like him was cruelty to myself and irresponsibility toward my daughter. I forcefully pulled my leg away from Kevin's grasp and took a step back, looking at them coldly. So, now you know you were wrong? Now you're scared? Where was this regret before? When you were scheming against me and Emily, did you ever think this day would come? The gambling debts you racked up are your own mess. Why should my daughter, why should our family, have to bear the consequences for you? As for jail, I looked at his tear-streaked face and said, word by word, it's what you deserve. It is the price you must pay. The game is over, Kevin. You lose. My words were like a final verdict, completely shattering the psychological defenses of Kevin and his parents. They collapsed on the floor, their faces ashen, unable to speak. Seeing their despair, the pent-up anger in my chest was finally, completely released. It was a liberating feeling, truly liberating. After the showdown, the new house was in shambles. Kevin and his parents sat on the floor, looking completely broken, as if all the life had been drained from them. The invited guests had all tactfully left, each patting my shoulder with a word of comfort and casting a final, disdainful glance at Kevin on their way out. The living room was left with just me, Emily, David, and Kevin's family of 3. The air was thick with embarrassment, despair, and a suffocating heaviness. Emily's crying had subsided. She leaned against me, her eyes staring blankly into the distance. I knew she needed time to process everything. David cleared his throat, breaking the silence. Kevin, at this point, there's nothing more to say. Your actions gambling during the marriage, incurring huge debts, and attempting to deceive and transfer Miss Emily Miller's premarital property, which was fully funded by her mother, Mrs. Susan Miller, constitute a serious breach of conduct. According to the law, and the specific clauses in the notarized will previously established by Mrs. Miller, you have a few options. David's voice was calm and professional, devoid of any emotion. First, an uncontested divorce. Miss Miller can, out of consideration for your past relationship, choose not to sue you for fraud, but you must leave the marriage with nothing. This house was purchased in full by your mother-in-law, registered under Emily's name, and is considered Emily's separate premarital property. It has nothing to do with you. The gambling debts you incurred are your own responsibility and must not involve Miss Miller. Second, if you do not agree to an uncontested divorce, or if you try to cause trouble over the division of assets, Miss Miller will file a lawsuit. At that time, we will submit all the evidence, including your gambling IOUs, the debt collection recordings, and the recordings of you scheming to sell the house. The judge, based on your severe misconduct, will make a judgment on asset division, though you have no claim to this house anyway, and debt responsibility that will be extremely unfavorable to you. At the same time, we reserve the right to pursue legal action against you for fraud. Third, David paused, his gaze sweeping over Kevin and his parents. Regarding your $50,000 gambling debt, the creditors are unlikely to let it go easily. If your debt issues lead them to take illegal actions that threaten the personal or financial safety of Miss Miller or Mrs. Miller, you alone will bear the consequences. David's words were clear, each one a dagger to the heart. For Kevin, every path was a dead end. He sat limply on the floor, his face ashen. He knew he had no chance of turning things around. His parents were even more terrified, especially upon hearing about potential legal action and debt collectors. Their faces turned ghostly white. We choose the first option. Kevin's mother was the first to react, rushing to speak. An uncontested divorce. We'll leave with nothing. We don't want anything. We just beg. We beg you to spare Kevin this once. Don't let him go to jail. His father nodded repeatedly. Yes, we'll get a divorce, right away. We'll figure out the debts ourselves. We won't trouble Emily at all. Their only thought now was to cut ties and save their son from a lawsuit. As for the house and money, they no longer dared to dream of them. Kevin's lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he just lowered his head in defeat, accepting his parents' choice. What right did he have to bargain? David looked at Emily. Emily, what is your decision? Emily lifted her head. Her tears had dried, leaving only exhaustion and resolve in her eyes. She looked at Kevin, the man she had once loved so deeply, who now seemed like a complete stranger. She took a deep breath, her voice quiet but firm. I agree to the divorce. We'll do as Mr. Chen said. There was no hesitation, no lingering affection. The greatest sorrow is a dead heart. Hearing Emily's decisive answer, Kevin's body jolted. He looked up at her in disbelief. Perhaps a part of him still held on to the fantasy that she would be merciful, that she would soften. But all he saw in her eyes was the extinguished flame of love and cold determination. In that moment, he truly realized that he had lost not just a house and money, but the woman who had once loved him with all her heart. Very well, David nodded. Since both parties agree, I will draft the divorce agreement as soon as possible. Kevin, after the agreement is signed, you are to move out of this house immediately. You have 3 days to remove all your personal belongings. Anything left after that period will be considered abandoned. Additionally, David added, regarding your gambling debts, while Miss Miller is not obligated to repay them, to avoid any future complications, I strongly advise you to communicate with your creditors and work out a repayment plan. If you require legal assistance, you may seek separate counsel. Kevin and his parents listened to David's pronouncements like condemned prisoners. And just like that, the matter seemed to be settled. I looked at the scene before me with little emotion. The thrill of revenge had peaked the moment the truth was revealed. Now, all that was left was the fatigue of cleaning up the mess. I walked over to Kevin's parents. Looking at these two poor, elderly people who had also been victimized by their son, I felt a flicker of pity. Uncle, Auntie, my tone softened slightly. I know you are victims in this too. You bear some responsibility for not disciplining him properly, but this is mostly his own doing. The divorce is settled. We will not be involved with his gambling debts. I wish you the best. Please do not disturb Emily's and my life again. After saying this, I didn't look at them again. I turned and helped Emily up. Emily, let's go home. Emily nodded, not even glancing at Kevin, and walked toward the door with me. David packed his things and followed. At the door, I paused and looked back at Kevin, who was still slumped on the floor. He looked up, his eyes a complex mix of emotions, as if he wanted to say something. I met his gaze coldly, giving him no chance to speak. Kevin, remember today's lesson. Don't be too greedy in life, and never mistake someone's kindness and trust for an opportunity to scheme. The world is ultimately fair. What goes around, comes around. With that, I took Emily and David and walked out of the house that had once held so much hope for me, but was now tainted with filth and betrayal, without looking back. The door shut with a solid thud, sealing off everything inside and severing all ties my daughter and I had with that mistaken past. Stepping out of the building, the sun was shining brightly. Its warmth on my skin seemed to dispel some of the gloom in my heart. Emily leaned on my shoulder. Though still silent, her tense body seemed to relax a little. David looked at us and smiled. Susan, Emily, it's all over now. Things will get better from here. I nodded, looking into the distance. They will. Everything will be okay. Yes, everything would be okay. The price was painful, but at least we cut our losses in time. At least I protected my daughter and saved our family. As for Kevin and his family, I no longer cared what their fate would be. That was the path they had chosen. They would have to walk it to the end. And Emily and I would start a new life. A life without deception, without schemes, just a mother and daughter leaning on each other, but full of hope. The divorce papers were signed quickly under David's supervision. The process was smoother than I had imagined. Kevin was likely terrified or utterly hopeless. He signed without any objections, truly leaving with nothing. His parents didn't bother us again, only sending a message through a third party, hoping we would, for old time's sake, not press legal charges against Kevin. After discussing it, Emily and I decided not to pursue it for the time being. It wasn't out of pity, but because we felt that letting him struggle in society with a mountain of debt was perhaps a more realistic and lasting punishment than sending him to prison. Of course, we reserved the right to use legal means at any time, if he or his creditors ever dared to harass us. Kevin moved out of the new house quickly. I heard that his parents sold their own home to help pay off part of his debt, and the family was now renting a tiny apartment, living a very difficult life. And the debt collectors were relentless. The calls and harassment never stopped. Because of his debt and ruined reputation, Kevin lost his job and could only find odd jobs to barely make ends meet. The once dashing and promising young man had become a dejected, down-and-out wreck, shunned by everyone. That was the price he paid for his greed and deceit. Meanwhile, Emily's and my life gradually returned to normal. We decided not to live in the new house for now. It held too many bad memories. We cleaned it up and rented it out. The monthly rent wasn't much, but it was a steady income. Emily moved back into my old house with me. After this ordeal, she seemed like a different person. She was no longer the naive, dependent girl she once was. She became quieter, but also more mature and resilient. She threw herself into her work, striving to improve herself. I knew her heart was still wounded and needed time to heal. All I could do was be there for her, support her, and give her warmth and strength. Our life together as mother and daughter was peaceful and stable. On weekends, we would go shopping, see a movie, or take a walk in the park. In the evenings, we would cook together and chat about our work and our lives. Though the warmth of romantic love was gone, the bond between mother and daughter grew even stronger. As for the $200,000, a portion of it was now the house, which continued to exist as a rental property. The rest of the money, combined with my other savings, pension, and the rental income, was more than enough for us to live comfortably. I was open with Emily about my finances and amended my will again. This time, the terms were simple. All my assets would be inherited entirely by my daughter, Emily Miller, upon my death. No conditions, no defenses, because I knew that after everything she had been through, my daughter had truly grown up. She knew how to protect herself and how to cherish her life. I no longer needed to use rules and clauses to protect her. I trusted her. One evening, as we were sitting on the sofa watching television, Emily suddenly turned to me and whispered, "Mom, I'm sorry." I was taken aback. "Silly girl, what are you sorry for?" "I'm sorry for not listening to you back then, for letting a wolf into our house, for almost hurting you and myself," she said, her eyes welling up with tears. I stroked her hair gently. "It's all in the past, Emily. You live and you learn. Who hasn't met a few bad people in their youth? The important thing is that we woke up in time, right? Besides," I looked into her eyes seriously, "I'm also responsible. I was too eager for you to get married, too confident in my own judgment, and I didn't vet him properly for you." "Mom," Emily choked out, burying her face in my shoulder. I held her tightly. There, no more crying. From now on, we are going to be fine. Better than before." Emily nodded vigorously. In that moment, I knew that we, as a mother and daughter, had truly moved on. We had finally overcome that hurdle in our hearts. Life went on. The painful experience didn't break us. It made us stronger and more appreciative of each other. As for Kevin, I would occasionally hear bits and pieces about him from old neighbors. It was always about him being more and more destitute. I heard he had left the city to escape his debts, and his whereabouts were unknown. His parents had gone with him, living out their later years in misery. Hearing this, I felt nothing. Those who are pitiful often have a hateful side. It was the consequence he deserved. I wouldn't pity him, nor would I pay any more attention to him. He had completely vanished from our lives, like a malignant tumor that had been completely removed. It left a scar, but ultimately, we had a healthy new beginning. I started to replan my retirement. I used to revolve around my daughter, but now that she was grown, it was time for me to live for myself. I enrolled in a calligraphy class at a senior center and joined a community choir. My days became full, fulfilling, and happy. I even started writing a little, documenting my experiences and thoughts over the years. It was a way to find closure for myself and hopefully offer some inspiration and strength to others in similar situations. I titled my first article, "Yes, This Is My Story," a story of betrayal, awakening, and fighting back. A story of motherly love, growth, and redemption. Time is the best healer. In the blink of an eye, 2 years passed. My life with Emily had long settled into a peaceful and warm routine. Emily excelled at her job and was recently promoted to department head. She became more confident and independent, radiating the charm of a mature woman. Seeing her now, I felt a deep sense of pride. That failed marriage, though it brought her immense pain, also led to her rebirth, helping her grow into a better version of herself. Occasionally, well-meaning friends would try to set her up with someone. Emily always politely declined with a smile. "Mom, I'm doing great right now. I'm not in a hurry," she'd say. "When it comes to fate, I'll let it be." I knew she wasn't rejecting love, just being more cautious. After one betrayal, she had learned how to better protect herself and knew more clearly what she wanted. That was fine. It was better to have nothing than to settle for less. I believed that her true happiness was waiting for her in the near future. My own life was also becoming more vibrant. The calligraphy and choir classes introduced me to many new, like-minded friends. We would paint and sing together, living life to the fullest. I also fell in love with traveling. In the past, to save money and take care of my daughter, I had hardly ever traveled far. Now, with my daughter independent and with time and money on my hands, it was time to see the world. I joined senior tour groups and visited many places. I climbed mountains, sailed on lakes, and walked through historic cities. The beautiful landscapes of our country broadened my horizons and enriched my spirit. Every time I returned from a trip, I would bring back local specialties and little gifts for Emily. She would always laugh and say, "Mom, you're more trendy than I am now." It was true. When your mindset is young, you naturally seem younger. Occasionally, I would think of Kevin, but the memory no longer brought anger or pain. It was more like watching a story about someone else. I heard that he had ended up in a small southern city, still dodging debts and living a very wretched life. His parents were suffering with him, their health deteriorating. That was karma, wasn't it? You reap what you sow. Heaven is ultimately fair. One day, at my calligraphy class, I ran into an old acquaintance, a distant relative of Kevin's family. She seemed a bit awkward seeing me, given what Kevin had done. I, however, was quite calm and greeted her warmly. After some small talk, she hesitated and said, "Susan, Kevin's mother? She asked someone to find me a while ago. She wanted to ask about Emily." My heart skipped a beat, but my face remained impassive. "Oh? What did she want to ask?" Just to know how Emily is doing now, if she's found someone new," she said cautiously. She also said that Kevin knows he was wrong, regrets it deeply, and still thinks about Emily. I almost laughed out loud. Regret? Thinks about her? Where was all this before? Now that he sees Emily is doing well, he wants to re-establish contact. In his dreams. My face hardened. "Ma'am, please do me a favor and tell her that Emily is doing very well, exceptionally well, but that has nothing to do with their family. As for Kevin, whether he regrets it or not, is none of our business. We cut ties with him a long time ago. Please ask them not to disturb our lives again. Let the past be the past." My tone was firm, leaving no room for negotiation. The woman left, looking embarrassed. I knew she would relay my message exactly as I had said it, and that was for the best. I didn't want our lives to be troubled by those people and those events again. We needed to look forward. The lease on the new house we had rented out was about to expire. Emily and I discussed it and decided not to renew. "Mom, why don't we just sell this house?" Emily suggested. Keeping it always feels a bit uncomfortable. With the money from the sale, you can save it for your retirement, or we could buy another house that you like. I thought for a moment and shook my head. We're not selling. Why not? Emily was puzzled. I smiled. Emily, this house was originally my safety net for you. Although we hit some bumps along the way, my original intention hasn't changed. Right now, it might represent a bad memory for you, but I hope that one day it can become the foundation for your new beginning. You can live in it yourself or use it as your home when you get married. Or, if you really don't like it, you can sell it then. I'll support you, but for now, we don't need the money, so there's no hurry to get rid of it. Let it stay there, to remind us and to be a witness, to remind us of our past foolishness and pain, and to witness our current strength and new life. Emily looked at me, her eyes filled with emotion. She nodded. Okay, Mom, I'll listen to you. We decided to renovate the house again, to completely erase all traces of Kevin. We replaced the furniture and changed the style, letting it say a final goodbye to the past. During the renovation, I often went to supervise. Watching the workers tear down the old wallpaper and pry up the old floors, I felt an indescribable sense of relief, as if the gloom that had settled in my heart was being cleared away, bit by bit. The new walls were painted a warm cream color. The new floors were a bright wood-grain tile. Sunlight streamed through the newly cleaned windows, filling every room. This was no longer a cage of conspiracy and betrayal. It was becoming a home, a true home for me and my daughter, full of sunshine and hope. Looking at the newly renovated house, I was filled with emotion. Life is like a house. It's inevitable that it will suffer damage and dirt. But as long as we have the courage to face it, to clean it, and to repair it, we can always welcome a new beginning. Kevin, thank you. Thank you for teaching my daughter and me such a vivid lesson with your greed and betrayal. You made us understand the treachery of the human heart and the importance of cutting our losses. You also made us appreciate the value of family and the importance of being strong. Your end was your own doing, but our future will be bright. After the renovation was complete and the house had aired out for a few months, Emily and I officially moved in on a sunny weekend. This time, there was no boisterous housewarming party, no guests with false intentions. It was just the two of us and a few close friends who had genuinely come to help. We worked together to arrange the furniture and organize our belongings. Looking at this home, decorated completely to our liking, cozy, comfortable, and full of life, Emily and I looked at each other and smiled, our eyes filled with hope for the future. That evening, after our friends had left, Emily and I sat on the new sofa, drinking red wine to celebrate our move. Mom, this is so nice, Emily said softly, leaning on my shoulder. It feels like everything is starting over. Yes, I took a sip of wine, enjoying the pleasant buzz. Let's turn the page on the past for good. From now on, we only look forward. Life had indeed turned a new page. After moving into the new house, Emily's mood brightened considerably. She started picking up her old hobbies again, doing yoga on weekends or painting at a studio. The smiles on her face became more frequent, and her eyes grew brighter. Seeing her regain her youthful vitality made me happy from the bottom of my heart. And I, too, was enjoying my retirement even more. Besides calligraphy, choir, and traveling, I started learning how to use a smartphone, getting on social media, and even watching short videos. At David's urging, I even started a blog, posting the little articles I wrote about life, my experiences with scams, and mother-daughter relationships. To my surprise, the response was quite good. Many readers left comments saying my stories had given them strength and inspiration. Reading those sincere comments warmed my heart. It turned out that sharing my experiences and helping others was such a meaningful thing to do. Occasionally, in my articles, I would mention the incident with Kevin without naming him, reminding everyone, especially women, to keep their eyes open in marriage and relationships and to protect themselves, particularly when it comes to financial matters. The old saying, "Have no intention to harm others, but have the intention to guard against others," was a lesson learned through blood and tears. As for the notarized will I had amended that night, I kept it in a safe place. Although it seemed unnecessary now, as Kevin had long lost any possibility of inheriting anything, I had no intention of destroying it. It was like an alarm bell, a constant reminder of my past folly and gullibility. It was also like a medal, a testament to my awakening and counterattack. It marked a crucial turning point in my life. One day, David came to visit. In our conversation, he casually mentioned Kevin's situation. "I heard he got one of his legs broken a while ago over another debt," David said, shaking his head. "He really brought it on himself." I listened without any emotion, not even a shred of pity. That was the life he chose. He could blame no one. "By the way, Susan," David added, "I think Kevin's parents went back to their hometown. I heard their health isn't good, and they're having a tough time." I was silent for a moment, then said, "I see." That was all. I am not a saint. They had condoned their son's actions, perhaps even participated in the scheming. Their current situation was what they deserved. I only hoped they would never disturb our peaceful life again. Emily and I both had our own new lives. She worked hard, enjoyed being single, and lived with confidence and vibrance. I was enjoying my golden years, cultivating hobbies, and living a full and happy life. We, as mother and daughter, accompanied and supported each other, turning our days into poetry. Looking back, that dramatic showdown felt like it happened just yesterday. But my daughter and I had long since walked out of that shadow and into our own sunshine. Getting even and seeking revenge was certainly satisfying. But what was more important was finding ourselves again after the storm, rebuilding our lives and living better than before. That, perhaps, is the most profound meaning behind this story of ultimate payback. All right, folks, that's where our story ends for today. I hope you found it satisfying. Life isn't easy, and we all run into obstacles and bad people. But please remember, no matter what happens, never give up hope and never lose the courage to fight back. Protect yourself, hold your ground, and if you blossom, the butterflies will come. Finally, I wish for every kind and strong woman out there to be treated gently by the world. Thank you for watching, and I hope what I shared today resonated with you. For those who haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so we can be here with you every day and grow together. We'll see you next time.